And welcome back to another episode of the 5 and 20 podcast by Remarkable Academic Foods. I'm your host, Joshua Miller, and today's topic, we're talking about school food service equipment. Very, very important topic for everyone. And our guest today is Chef Robert Similink. He is a former senior corporate executive chef for a major equipment manufacturer, and today he is the director of culinary services for Ignite Food Service. It's not your typical equipment rep group. They are hands-on, offering advisory services for both front of the house and back of the house, helping you get more efficient and run your operations in a less hectic way, if you may. And their locations are all throughout the Mountain Time Zone. So if you're in that part of the U.S. and also the Northwest in those states, and even Alaska and Hawaii. So if you're in any of those locations, I mean, that's a huge area for them. And they have 3 test kitchens amongst their organization. So definitely check these guys out and what they're doing. It's pretty amazing. And stick around for this convo as we dive into the world of equipment for school food service. All right, Chef Robert, thank you for tuning in with our audience here today. And
Hey, Joshua, good to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're going to try to cover another 5 or so questions in 20-something minutes. And before we go into any of the nitty-gritty details, I want to ask one icebreaker question, which is, what is your guilty pleasure food?
Guilty pleasure of food?
Yeah.
Salty, sweet, and sour. So anytime I can get that combination,
Salty,
I'm all
sweet,
in.
sour.
So
Okay.
it's a lot of Southeast Asian.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that Pad Thai, I'm assuming, is one of those things
Oh,
that
yeah.
falls within that category for you.
Yeah. So deviate real quickly. We got a really great Thai restaurant here in Phoenix, and it's called Glaybon. She's actually up for a James Beard this year. And
Wow.
she did these oyster mushrooms that were tempura battered and had this dehydrated squid paste, sweet and sour dipping sauce. One of the best things I've ever had in my life because it crunched in your mouth, but the mushroom was tender. And then that sweet, sour, salty with that mushroom, just kind of mind blowing. But just,
Love it.
yeah,
Love it. I've
I
been
still
trying
can
to get
taste
to
that.
mushrooms
I
more.
had that like a year ago and I can still taste it.
If you find it again, if you get to it again, send my way. Send some my way up
Okay.
here in upstate New York. Awesome. So let's kick into equipment, but first, Ignite Food Service. So, like I said in the introduction, you guys have 3 test kitchens,
Yes.
and that's, I think, is a huge resource for anyone that is involved in school food service in any way, shape, or form. Not if they're just making the decisions, but if they have any influence in the decisions of the equipment coming in. So, but not everyone may understand the full benefit of a test kitchen. So let's just start with the basics. What
Okay.
is a test kitchen?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like your test drive of your car. You got to get in that car and you got to drive and you got to know that it's right for you and it does what you want it to do. So when you're buying a piece of equipment, it could be a steamer, it could be a combi oven, it could be a refrigerator.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different variables to all these different pieces of equipment, and in the industry there's a lot of good, better, and best equipment, and you got to kind of figure out which is the one that you want. Do you want something that's going to last forever? Do you want something that's just going to get you through something? How busy is your kitchen? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? And usually there's some sort of challenge you're trying to solve. And so, okay, I've got steamers and convection ovens in my kitchen. Do I want to replace it with another steamer and convection? Maybe. Or do I maybe want to put a combi in? I don't know. So that's where you come into the kitchen and you work with one of our culinary team, and we cook in all these different pieces of equipment and you see how they operate. So, what is it we're trying to get past? And every kitchen's a little bit different. Some kitchens like technology, some don't, and maybe the steamer and the convection oven is perfect for your menu or for the people who are using that piece of equipment because it's not intimidating. But maybe you're looking to implement a little bit more scratch cooking to increase the participation rate. Now we want to go up to a combi because it can do more. It's a better air fryer. It can do things that those other pieces of equipment don't do. So let's get in the kitchen. Let's cook together. Let's evaluate this. And then you can walk out of the kitchen. It's a no pressure thing, and decide for you which piece of equipment really is going to be best for your kitchen or kitchens.
Absolutely. And I remember the first experience, I went into a test kitchen to look into a piece of equipment. And not only did I bring, myself another culinarian or two, but I actually brought in facilities as well, because it was going to be an upgrade.
Yep.
It was new technology, more
Right.
bells and whistles in it. And so they were able to come in and get some answers question as well, to make sure that they were comfortable moving forward with that investment that is going to have a long-term effect for everyone, including them.
Yeah, that's a great point, because the people who are going to be maintaining that equipment, they're part of the process. They have to buy in too,
Mm.
and make sure that they feel comfortable with what's happening also.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you see schools taking advantage of test kitchens more and more over the years, or do you think is it at a level where you think it's should be at, or do you think more people should be getting involved with them?
I think that, well, it depends. Everywhere's different, and it
Mhm.
depends upon the relationship that that district has with both the rep firm and the culinary team. But I think it can be taken a lot further.
Yeah,
I my team here in Phoenix, we've got a really good rep. Well, and Denver too. Um, Kent is new for us, or Seattle. We've only been in that marketplace for a couple of years, so some relationships are still being built. But they know who Ignite is in the mountain and Southwest. They know who I am, because I'm very involved in what we call SNAZ, SNAAZ,
nice.
here. And I do a lot of their leadership meetings. I actually do presentations for them. I do kickoff meetings for some of the different districts around town. um, they host meetings in my kitchen, and some of the other districts, they come here for team building events. So they know me. So they know that if they want a piece of equipment, they're going to contact me. But I know that it's not that way in every marketplace. And I would recommend to every director, every district, that if you're thinking about a piece of equipment, reach out and go into the kitchen and see. And you know what? Maybe you want to replace brand X steamer with the same brand. But I bet that there's something that's changed on that steamer now. There's been improvements, there's been different things that have happened. So go get in front of it and see what the newest version of it is.
Yeah, and go out and do your research. If you don't know of someone that is in your area, a rep group or equipment dealer that may have a test kitchen, go do your research. That's how I ended up coming across one. I did my research, got in touch with an equipment rep group, and they said, "Oh, by the way, we have a test kitchen at XYZ. Let's go there. Let's meet up and let's cook some products. You get to see how it works." So do your research. If you don't know of anyone, they are out there, and it is a great resource to have. So a little
Yeah,
bit earlier, you
A quick Google search, searching in
yeah, really
manufacturer's
easy.
rep, the brand of equipment, and where you're located. It'll pop right up with their website, and you'll be able to see all their contact information and just reach out.
Yeah, really easy to find. So earlier you touched on good, better, best equipment, and sometimes there's a lot of focus on the cost when
Yep.
there's schools looking to buy some equipment. They just want to look at that bottom line, but as you said, it depends on your operation, what kind of volume you're doing, what kind of menu you have. So there are some hidden costs of just always going for that cheap, cheap, cheap. So what are some of those hidden costs that operators may not be privy to of, this could be a headache down the road?
Yep. Well, I like to think about automation in kitchens not as, if you go to the trade shows, you see these hamburger flipping robots and these things that pick French fry baskets up, and or the
Yeah.
Chipotle thing now where it puts the guacamole in a bowl for you and they peel the avocados.
Yeah.
Um, I look at automation as simple as it could be a probe, because now the probe tells me when the food's done, instead of me having to walk over to that piece of equipment, open a door, pull my pocket thermometer out, stick it in, stand there, wait for it, and see if it's ready or not, and close the door and go back and cooking. Well, I left my station now. Or if I'm in service, and I'm feeding the kids, I've had to walk away from the line. So
Yeah.
I look at that. I look at a program. that I walk up and I hit the tater tot button, and the oven knows exactly what to do and does it the same way every single time. So that's kind of where the better and the best come up. So in your good, you're turning a knob. You may or may not have temperature control, and you're turning a knob for time. Is
Yeah.
it the right amount of time? I don't know. And are you relying on that new employee to know that, oh, I have to set my steamer for 9 minutes for this certain item? Well, does that new employee know that? Am I having to teach that to that new employee? Or can I just go, hey, walk over to the convection oven or the combi oven and push that tater tot button, and the oven does everything that I need it to do? And that's all the training I need to do. I don't need a chef. I need a cook, not even a higher level cook. And on day one, I'm setting that person up for success, and I'm not making their life difficult. They're they're cooking the best food right out of the gate. They feel good about the food, and it's not hard for them.
Yeah. So thinking about the quality of cooks that you have coming in, cooks and chefs, and obviously that usually plays into your pay rate as well. How much are
Right.
you paying? And we all know that this labor crisis is not going to go anywhere, and
Mm-hmm.
the skill level of people that are coming into the marketplace is not going to magically get higher overnight. So yeah, those are
That
definitely some things to keep considering when you're
And
looking
I'm
at
still hearing
equipment.
some of the more remote districts, they just can't, they don't have enough people.
Yeah.
They want 6 cooks in the kitchen. They can find 4. That's all they can find. So now everybody's doing double the work. And that's not easy. And the lunch ladies always like to complain about their backs and their feet,
Yeah.
hurting. Well, now they're hurting even more. So whatever that, if that piece of equipment can help take some of that pressure off, that's great. The other thing too is you get what you pay for. And so is that piece of equipment going to last for 5 years, or is it going to last for 10 years? And when it does fail, is it failing at 10 o'clock in the morning when you're trying to get food to the line, and now all of a sudden you can't steam something, or you can't cook something or bake something?
Yeah.
Was that savings of that 2%, 5% of the cost, was it really worth it? Or do you want to find that extra money and buy something that's going to last longer? And then that also goes back to, you mentioned the facilities team. When you get into a steam piece of equipment, whether it's a steamer or a combi, that facilities team needs to be changing the filters on a regular basis. The kitchen needs to be doing a deliming step of that piece of equipment. So there is a little bit of ongoing maintenance, and you need to do that too, because that small amount that you're paying for that upkeep is going to save you thousands of dollars down the
Yeah.
road.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I had a scenario where I was helping a school decide on purchasing new, I think it was like a 6 or 8 top burners stove, and I gave them a spec, manufactured everything, and they came back and said, "Well, why can't we get this one?" And
Right.
they were presented with one that was like half the cost, but the
Yep.
power of it was like 50%. I was like, your
Right.
cooks and your chefs are going to quit on you. They're going to be
Yeah.
watching water boil come to a boil for hours back there. It's great for a 100-seat restaurant maybe, but not for this size of a campus pumping out as much smells as fast as you are. So that's
Yeah.
definitely another
Definitely.
aspect
Or
to
like a
it.
flat top.
Yeah.
Again, they range in prices, but how many burgers are you going to put on that flat top, or other items? And is it going to get cold? Is it going to start to steam that product instead of searing that product? And are you going to be able to drop another burger right where you pulled one off and continue to cook? Or do you have to give that thing 5 minutes to reheat? Well, that's frustrating. That's again, that's not worth the small amount of money that you saved.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in your career, I'm sure you've come across numerous schools, K-12, colleges, universities. Do you have one in particular where you could share a success story where you saw the program and a before equipment was invested into and an after they invested in good quality equipment?
Well, I could probably got thousands of those, but
Yeah.
let's just go back to the last 3 weeks of my life.
Yeah.
I was hired under our Culinary 360 program, which is a consulting program that where we go in and we work with either new kitchens or existing kitchens to help them really implement the equipment that they put in. Because some manufacturers rep groups, they don't have a culinary team like we do, and they will go in and a sales guy goes in and says, well, this is how you turn this piece of equipment on, this is how you adjust the heat, this is etc. And they're there for an hour or 2 hours and they're gone.
Yeah.
So I was brought in to implement a cook chill kitchen in a CPK, so a central production kitchen for a school district in Iowa. They have 11 schools outside of the commissary. And so they have all this wonderful new equipment, but no one in the district had ever done cook chill before. And they all went in, they cooked at each individual school in the morning for that service and went home. Well, now we're going to go in and we're going to spread the workload out. And that one kitchen is cooking for all 11 satellites now. And you could imagine if we tried to cook all that food in the morning for 11 schools, they'd be there at 3 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah, they would.
So we're using cook chill processes to start that production out. Our target is 4 days, but sometimes it falls within three,
Yeah.
2 to 5. And 5 is the max that we ever want to go out. A day of production, 3 days in a cooler, and a day of rethermalization, whether that's at the school or at the commissary. And so we started to figure out how to do this with a limited staff and be able to start to spread that out, work with the dietitian on site to write the menus so that no department got overwhelmed, and they were able to spread that workload out between the bakery, cold production, and hot production. So all three teams worked together, implemented different menu items, brought things together at different times. A good example would be a new menu item that they're putting in, and this was done through a tasting, but cold production over a 2-day process did different things of slicing potatoes using a food processor type machine, slicing different onions, slicing different peppers, and they all ended up in hot production at a different time. And they roasted those separately, and then they blast chilled them. And finally, everything came together and was combined, rethermed, put in hot transport boxes, and sent to the schools. So now it's a new menu item, but it didn't really slow the kitchen down at all because it was done over a couple of days through 2 different departments. And so implementing that in, we were able to start adding more scratch cooking to that school district. We were able to give the kids fresher, more unique menu items. The biggest takeaway was implementing fresh pico de gallo that they would make
Nice.
either the morning of. That was the first thing that they'd walk in, and they would just they'd go in, they'd peel the onions, they'd go in and de-seed the chilies, they would cut the tops off of the tomatoes, and they would mostly de-stem the cilantro. Everything went through that food processor on a dicing blade, combined, add a little seasoning, add some lime juice, and it went into third pans. It was wrapped up. It was put into cold transport and sent to the schools in the morning for their tacos. And now, instead of canned salsa, they had fresh pico de gallo. How cool is that?
You can't replace it. Those are not
And
identical.
that was easier. That was easier than opening up all those cans of salsa.
I believe it, especially when the can opener is not working right.
Yeah, you're doing your arm workout,
going around this circle of HELL, like it just doesn't end. All right, so that's a great example and a really big project that they took on, going from cooking and holding to cook, chill, and
Right.
retherming. So not every organization may be ready for a big undertaking like that. So let's say that there's a school that is just like we don't have any major projects to turn over exactly what our food service looks like today. However, you still should be considering how much you're investing in your equipment year in
Right.
and year out. And that's where equipment replacement plans can come into play. So, why is an equipment replacement plan an important tool to have?
Well, it's good not only for the budgeting, but also
Absolutely.
watching for grants. Um, are there some grants that are available through either a national program or a state program that is going to let you replace equipment for something that's more efficient? And as we talk about efficiency, that's another thing to look at, because there's a lot of utility companies that have rebates for pieces of equipment.
Yes.
So I know that if you buy a Energy Star gas steamer here in Arizona, Southwest Gas gives you $500 back. So I mean, that's awesome. So back to your 6 burner range. If you're heating water up on a 6 burner range and you're thinking about going to a steamer and you're going to get $500 back,
Yeah.
wow, I think I might go that steamer route instead of looking at replacing that range. And I might, when I have to replace that range, go with a 2 or a 4 burner range and then grab a steamer too. So that's some of the successes we see too, is just that they're moving in another direction with that, and they get a grant. Or maybe like here in Arizona, this is another unique thing that we have. It's called the Blue Watermelon Project, and it's started by a group of chefs that wanted to help the schools implement and work with farmers to get fresh produce in so that they could have fresher items on the menu instead of frozen or commodity items. And so they're helping with fundraisers and working with helping to secure grants so that the schools can actually start bringing in that fresh food for the kids, and working with something that's more nutritional, keeping it local, getting back to some of the ancient grains that actually are meant to grow in Arizona instead of the things that have to be watered,
Wow.
and using up our irrigation.
Wow, that's amazing. Great point there with that. So, in terms of the decision making process, so schools looking to buy some equipment, arguably, who should be involved in those decision making processes?
Well, I find it usually starts with the director, because they're in charge of
Yeah.
all of that. So the director is responsible for budgets, responsible for going out and securing grants. And but then they will probably, if when they come into my kitchen, I'm usually seeing the director, somebody from facilities, probably somebody, the nutritionist is probably going to be involved, and they are probably going to bring in one of those cooks that's going to be using the equipment and get their feedback. And because the director's not cooking, but that
Exactly.
that that
It's a
that
good
roast
point.
cook or that kitchen manager needs to be involved in that process, because it's going to be implemented in them, and they're going to be the one who has to use it on a day-to-day basis. So I would strongly suggest involving all those people in the process so that you get all that feedback, and that it is truly the right piece of equipment for that kitchen.
Absolutely. It should be a team decision, not one person at the top. Definitely. I
Right.
agree with that. So, as a closing question, is there any tip or advice that you want to give to school administrators or decision makers, and how they approach equipment? If it's been an afterthought up to now, and maybe they're thinking, okay, maybe we should pay more attention to this moving forward. What's the first tip that you would want to give them?
Pretty much everything we've been saying. I would start reaching out to the manufacturer's reps and start researching all the different brands of whatever that piece of equipment is that you're looking for, and find out, you know, again, what are the features of it? What are the drawbacks of it? And get that information from that manufacturer's rep. Hopefully they've got a chef on staff, because we cook.
Yeah, that's what I love about what you guys are doing.
We know what that piece of equipment's going to do,
Yeah,
and we are going to tell you honestly, is it the right fit? Because I know that, at least from Ignite standards, when that equipment's installed, I go on site and I do the training. So I'm not going to oversell anything, because I don't want to have to walk into that kitchen and somebody goes, well, you said it's going to do this.
and they'll be calling your
And
phone,
I'll be
texting
like, well, not
you.
really. No, I won't do that, because, well, first off, our company, that's not the way our company works, and that's not part of our core values. But I don't want to be put in that position that I have to lose my reputation as a cook saying it doesn't do that. I'm going to be honest with you, straight up with that. And then I would also, besides working with the manufacturer's reps, I would call my friends who are directors of other districts, other schools, other kitchen managers, and talk to them. And hey, have you ever used this piece of equipment? Or what piece of equipment do you use under this category? And why do you use that? And how has that worked for you? And what has the support from the factory or the local rep community been on that piece of equipment for you when you call them? Things are going to break, you know,
Absolutely.
but does that company stand behind it? Does that company get warranty service out there right away? If it's out of warranty, who is the authorized service provider, and do they show up? Do they show up with the parts? Are they professional? And get all this equipment, talk to your friends, find out, who's using what, and see what they have to say with it. And I'm sure you're gonna get some good honest feedback, and they're gonna steer you in the right direction.
Absolutely. And definitely want to add on to that. Don't wait. Don't wait until that equipment is constantly going down, down, down. Start being proactive and getting the pulse of what the state of your equipment is today, and
Yep.
start. You should have a revolving plan essentially. Unless you're brand new, everything is just fresh out of a crate and installed. You probably have some things to start thinking about, whether it's for
Oh,
the next couple of months or the next year or two.
well,
So,
even if the factory built it right, the installers may have made a mistake. So even with brand new equipment,
yeah.
there's always something that's going to
I've been
happen
through
there.
those
They got
headaches too.
past the punch list, and yeah,
Yeah,
you're going to be calling for warranty service because something happened.
especially during the COVID era when a lot of
Oh
manufacturers had
yeah.
to shift. That's a good point. Well, thank you, Chef Robert, for tuning
Oh, my
in and
pleasure.
helping
Thank you.
get through some of these questions here. And how can people connect with you if they want to continue the conversation or get involved with Ignite Food Service?
Well, a couple of things. Like I said, we also have a Culinary 360 podcast, so you can go to YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts from, and check out the Culinary 360 podcast. If you go to ignitefoodservice.com, that is for our entire company, and there's a tab for getting a hold of the culinary team, and you can come directly to the culinary team if, based on whatever region you're in, Chef Luke for the Mountain States, me for the Southwest, and Chef Ryan for the Pacific Northwest, and be able to reach directly out to us. And, we'll respond to an email, and maybe even if you want us to call, we'll start that dialogue, and we can just start to, figure out what's going on and where can we be of some sort of assistance. We do events in our kitchens every month, each one. So, you're welcome anytime to come here. And like I said, if you are part of an SNA organization in our region and you want to do a chapter meeting, reach out. My kitchen's your kitchen.
Love it. And definitely take advantage of that. Check out what they are doing with it. And thank you for everything that you're doing to contribute to school food service and improvements. So, everyone, until next time, for me, I am signing off.